everyone. If you can see me in the dark here, Ron Evans. I'm the curator of primates here at the zoo. Coming to you today from one of the coolest spots, and maybe one of the more secret spots at the Cincinnati Zoo, our aye-aye habitat. Aye-ayes are one of the rarest species you'll find anywhere in the wild and in zoos. You can only find them in about 6 different zoos in North America. I'm here today with Stephanie Schuler. Stephanie's the head keeper of Jungle Trails and head keeper of the aye-ayes. And inside with the aye-ayes in the habitat is our primary aye-aye specialist, Matt Miller. Matt Miller actually has a lot of training with this species at other institutions. So I'm going to let Stephanie introduce you a little bit to our 2 aye-aye.
So our 2 aye-aye, we have our female Medea. Medea is 15 years old. And our male aye-aye is Niffy, and he is 12 years old. So right now Matt has constructed some special enrichment items, things that we would give the aye-aye to help exhibit natural behaviors. So right now they have a wood block here. There are mealworms inside that wood block. So the aye-aye, you see, will tap on hollowed out branches in the wild and find hollow spots where there might be insects or larvae. And then they'll use their giant ever-growing incisors to just dig a hole right into that branch, or in this case, this wood block, to get to those larvae and those insects. And then they'll use their special finger, a really skitty middle finger, and they'll use that to dig the bugs out and gobble them all up.
Yeah, aye-aye are some really unusual animals. They are a type of primate, the same thing as a gorilla, same order as monkeys, but they're very unique. They're so unusual because of all those special adaptations Stephanie talked about, that they're the only species in their family. So once again, one of the most unusual animals on the planet. Like Stephanie said, they have those crazy elongated middle fingers that actually have a ball and socket joint, which gives them great flexibility. They go around, they tap on branches, and they actually can hear how hollow a branch is and whether or not there may be some grubs under the bark, and is that worth chewing in with. They can hear it with those giant sonar dish ears. In the early days when people first discovered aye-aye, they didn't even think they were primates, but they realized that they were based on other things. But they have all these funny modified adaptations, including those rodent-like incisors that they chew with all the time. Aye-ayes have those long, funny, specialized fingers that you see Medea using quite, this is Medea, I believe, quite well. They have a modified fingernail or a hook on the end of that long finger, too, that they can reach in and grab grubs and mealworms from the holes that they chew in the trees. It's really quite amazing. These are nocturnal animals, right, Steph?
Yes.
That's why we have them under red lights here. Aye-ayes don't perceive red light, so it's really, to them, it's quite dark in here, even though to us, if you let your eyes adjust a little bit, you can see them pretty well in here. So it helps them out, and it helps our guests enjoy them as well.
So this, what Matt has, is a clear tube, just so we can see Medea using her finger to dig out a little bit of honey. So, as well as insects, aye-aye will also eat nectar, sap, honey from the trees, and they'll also eat coconut. So they'll dig a hole in the coconut with their teeth, and then they'll use that finger to dig out the insides of the coconuts or other fruits like mangoes. So we just wanted it to be a clear tube so you guys can really see up close how cool this is.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
This is.
So aye-aye also, like I said, they're primates, but they're also a type of lemur. And as you may know, all lemurs come from the island of Madagascar. And these guys only come out at the darkest part of night in the deepest part of the Madagascar rainforest. So they're very mysterious, and with those kind of big eyes and the whiskers that they have all over them, they've kind of got a legend among the local people as being witches when they come out from at the darkest part of night. So it's kind of bad luck historically for the local people when you see an aye-aye at night, because it's kind of scary. And sometimes in the past they used to be killed for that because it was a bad omen. But nowadays, of course, everybody's much more educated about aye-aye, and they're very well protected. Madagascar is one of the biggest conservation hotspots challenges on the planet. There's about 100 different species of lemurs, but most all of them are some level of endangered or critically endangered. So, including the eye, they're an endangered species, and we're trying to do everything we can help them here at Cincinnati Zoo. We're gathering up some of your questions right now as we speak.
You ready for some?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Carol wants to know, do they live in groups or are they solitary?
Well, I do spend a lot of time alone, so they are mainly solitary. However, there have been sightings of a pair of eye foraging together, but yes, for the most part, they are pretty solitary.
They have a really cool way of getting together, though, when they need to. When a female eye is in estrus and she's looking for a boyfriend, she sends out a very unique call in the dark Madagascar rainforest. It's called an eep. And can you do an eep, Stephanie? I don't know.
I cannot.
But it's this crazy scream of an eep, and it goes out into the rainforest, and it lets the male know, and the male do it back. So they let each other know where they're at in the dark rainforest, so they can come together and make little eye babies. So they're pretty much solitary, though, for the most part.
Matthew wants to know if they like humans.
No, they're indifferent to us. Being nocturnal in the rainforest, they don't really come in contact with humans, and if they do, out in the wild, humans, like Ron was saying, there's a folklore of them being a bad luck, so they are hunted and killed if a human would see an eye, so I don't think the eye would really like that. Here we do not go in and interact with them. This is just a very special case where we would be in here just so that you guys can see the eye's natural foraging behaviors. So this is a very, very specialized event for you.
Delilah wants to know, where does their name come from?
The eye name has a lot of different history to it. You can read different things about it, but what the the primary thought is it's a version of a Malagasy language or Madagascar language word that was spelled differently, that when spoken kind of sounds like I, which means in their language, I don't know, which means they didn't know what this thing was when they saw it for the first time. So they would say, I don't know what it is because it's so unusual. So that's the history of why they're called eye.
Janice was wondering, how many babies do they have at a time?
Typically, they just have one baby at a time. And the mom's gestation is about 150 to 170 days. So that's right around 5.5 to 6 months. And babies will stay in the nest that the mom makes for about 2 months until they start exploring a little bit. They can be running around as early as 4 months, and then by a year they're really running around just like an adult eye.
Cooper wants to know, why are their eyes so big?
Well, their eyes are big because they are nocturnal primates. Eye are actually the largest nocturnal primate that is known. So their eyes being so big will help them see in the dark and let in whatever little light there is out there.
Tammy wants to know, have we ever had babies here at our zoo?
No, we have not had any babies here. Medea and Niffy are a pair, but right now we have not had any babies, but they're
eyes are really tricky to reproduce in zoos, so there's a lot of research and a lot of collaborative work that goes into these guys between all the different zoos, maybe 6 or 7 different zoos that have the eye. And so there's currently only about 25 or 30 in North America. So like I said in the beginning, this is a real treat to have these guys here at the Cincinnati Zoo. Super rare, and who knows, one day we may swap out pairs to see if maybe a different male or a different female may like each other. It's not like they don't dislike each other, but for whatever reason, they haven't decided to make a baby here at the Cincinnati Zoo. So we may swap out or trade out a different eye from a different zoo in the future sometime. But for now, they're doing just fine.
Amy wants to know if they have any predators in the wild.
Their main predators are humans, deforestation and the folklore. That's their main predation. Also, they possibly could be hunted by fossa out in the rainforest. Or fusa, as some say.
Fusa, yeah. Different ways to pronounce it. And that's like, it looks kind of like a cat, but it's more like a civet. It's not really, but it's one of the only predators other than humans that I have in Madagascar. That's kind of why they have so many different funny species of lemurs that fit all these different niches in the crazy Madagascar environment. Some are diurnal or out during the day, some are nocturnal. The biggest one is an injury, which is like, I think it's at least 30 pounds. And then they got tiny little mouse lemurs. So these animals have been able to fill all the different niches in Madagascar and go different adaptation routes because they don't have a lot of predators. So it's just that one fusa that comes around and gets some of them sometimes. So they've been able to spread out throughout Madagascar and go all these different crazy paths.
Rachel wants to know, what is a baby eye called?
Most primates are simply called babies, just like we are, because they are primates. So it's called a baby. Good question.
Mike wants to know, what are they eating right now?
Well, right now they are getting a few different items, mainly mealworms in the wood blocks, and then they are getting a couple of peanuts that are broken up, and then there's also just a tiny bit of honey for them to eat.
Owen wants to know, do they ever come out in the daytime?
Typically no. They will, out in the wild, start coming out about a half hour before sunset, so that would be about as light as they would want it to be. Being very nocturnal, they don't like to be out in the light.
And our last question is from Sophia. She wants to know, do they ever eat fruit?
Yes, they love fruit, so they would eat coconuts, mangoes, all different sorts of fruits that are found out in the rainforest.
And they'll eat leaves and they'll eat grubs. They're pretty adaptable.
Yeah, seeds and nuts also.
Seeds and nuts and flowers.
All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in. We'd like you to click and do the activity that is here for the eye. Again, thanks for coming to this home safari, and we appreciate all of your support, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Matt.